to the 7th episode of the Cougar Playbook podcast. I'm Carter Gledhill, and today I have a very special guest, head coach of the men's volleyball team, Coach Rhyen Staley. Coach, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Coach, it's been a crazy time as always. First question I usually ask all my guests is, how have you been? What have you been as a coach? How have you been managing all this stuff during this crisis?
Gosh, it's been a challenge at the beginning for sure. I think especially like you being in season, all of our bearings were thrown off. And, I have to admit to, I guess, the world at this point that I was a little surprised when I figured out I too was a bit depressed. I think with what we had been doing and the direction we were heading to all of a sudden just be, full speed stop was hard, at least for about a week or two. But then, kind of getting back with the guys and, helping them stay focused on academics and so forth. And then not to mention, having two young kids at home. So trying to keep them engaged with academics and stuff started to help keep things, get things back going their way. But, it wasn't easy, like for a lot of people.
Yeah, I know it's been a struggle. I think a lot of athletes too, you understand that you're having a great season. I mean, you guys were having a tremendous season. I mean, talk about the success and a turnaround. I mean, not a lot of people predicted you guys to have the start of the season or the season you were having. You finished your inaugural season last year, 4-22, and you come out this year, and when the season ended, you guys are 14-3. So huge increase in the win percentage and just dominance overall. One of the key losses you guys had was Dominican, but those guys are ranked 7th in the nation. They were going to be ranked top 5 when the rankings were done. How did you coach your way up to that point from what it was from the beginning of the season, all of a sudden, okay, now we're at one of the top teams in the NAC?
I think coming in, and I mean coming in like, when I was first offered the job and decided to take it, setting those long-term goals. And then having the core philosophy in place coming in. I think the decades of background in coaching and running my own high school program with the people that I've worked with and so forth, and a couple of my very close friends who have run a very successful high school girls program in the state of Illinois, I had a really good picture of what the program in my eyes should look like. And just staying with that, despite the struggles the first year, but also knowing that we had almost all freshmen, and then keeping that long-term focus, and then a bit of luck in recruiting. Certainly we picked up some fantastic young men to add to our roster, and we are going to again add even better pieces that'll continue to help us grow as a program. But picking up and adding to what we already built as a foundation, because our upperclassmen are quite the foundation in terms of leadership and so forth. So, and I think that was the key, was them buying into the philosophy that we were trying to build and grow around the program.
Yeah, I mean, on the roster this year, you guys had, I believe, one junior who was there, and then you had all those younger guys. So as a coach, when you're starting the program, you talk about those long-term foundations. When you get when you got the job first off, what was your message to the guys to start off with? What did you tell them as your goals for the program, or what do you expect of them when you started off?
We spent a lot of time talking about who they wanted to be as a person. Because in our program philosophy and also in our recruiting, we talk about the 3 core pieces of what we're doing, which is not only on the court or on the field, but what they're doing in the classroom and then what they're doing in their personal lives. And so all 3 of those pieces come together. I'm a big proponent that if you're going to be a winner in the gym, you have to be a winner in the classroom, in your academics, in your pursuit of your academic goals, and then also a winner in your personal life. And all those take a lot of hard work and time. And it's a constant process. And so we spent a lot of time in the recruiting process talking about those pieces and trying to get to know each other. Because, as I talked with my close friend, as we were building this program, content of character often over the quality of talent, and certainly want the best talent and the best content of character. but if we had to choose a little bit, like which direction would we go, we were focused on content of character, because if we've got the right driven young men, um, with the right focus and buy-in, then we can beat out bigger, better athletes that maybe have a lesser work ethic, et cetera. So that was our main draw. And the guys that bought into that are the ones that are here.
So when you talk about that, the quality of the person over their athletic ability, did you know that coming into this year that would be a separating factor going into your second season as the head coach when you started this? Like, if we have our quality guys, we're going to be overachieving of what we already set for our second season goals.
I actually believe in that very much. In my years at the high school level, at a Catholic high school, um, we kind of got whoever walked in the door, and we didn't have a big population to pull from. The school I was at was about 700 students total. And so we often had to make do with the young men that would come into the gym to want to be part of our program, and get them to buy into what we were doing. And just a lot of coaching and training and mental toughness. And so that's been my career at the high school level, is some years having great talent, and some years having guys that had the right mindset, maybe a little lesser talent, but still achieved or overachieved. And so it's not foreign to me in the general terms, certainly at the college level, but um, coming in with that kind of that David mindset that, there's going to be other programs like a Dominican that we expect to be competing with at the, in a chance to beat by next year. And I was thinking that maybe it would take about 4 years to get there. But our guys have been fearless this year for sure. Just, I think let's go back to a little bit different, earlier question about how do you get a group from going 4-22 to 14-3. And the big difference, or one of the big differences I saw this year, was they didn't back down from teams. And I should back up. They didn't really back down from teams last year, but you could see the difference in like a freshman, sophomore versus junior, seniors. This year, it didn't matter who we were playing. They didn't back down from anybody. And that's why we were able to come back late in some games and win. And so that's a testament to them buying into the philosophy and everything.
Yeah, I totally tell. I mean, we had guys on our team too. Like that little, like the little experience you get, or that little like confidence you can even get coming off of a season, goes tremendous amounts towards someone's mental ability. And you even talked about it too earlier with the idea that like, yeah, you were having a little bit of a mental chaos, with a little bit the feeling down after the season. How have you been able to communicate with these guys? Because I can imagine coming off of a really successful season, only halfway through, to have your season cut short, that some of them are feeling the same way.
Right. Well, in within the program structure, we built a leadership development type piece to what we're doing. And one of the pieces was they call it decentralized command. So we have a couple different captains, and each captain or team leader has a number of guys underneath them that they administer to. And so that way we can, we spend a lot of time communicating with the leaders and having them communicate out to the individual guys on a more like regular basis. They already have a tight relationship as it is. And they know too, just like with your program, that anything you need, you can come to us coaches and so forth. And so I'd have a number of conversations with individuals and help them through some things and so forth. And, and at times letting them be, I think sometimes, especially as we get a little older, I want to leave them alone when they don't need me, you know what I mean? But knowing that I'm there for them when there's struggles, or they need to chat with somebody outside of their, let's say their family or something. So it was a balance. It was a balance of working with them and helping them through that. You know, our big program philosophy right now, like to nail it down, is we have a challenge coin that we have as a team, and on the challenge coin is better today than you were yesterday. And that's one of our big key values that we have. And we talk about every day is better today than yesterday. And so what we did was we kept reinforcing that philosophy even after the season got ended, of keeping that forward looking mentality to what they're doing. And we just started talking about next year already. We started talking about, okay, this one's done with, there's nothing we can do about it, so let's make today better than yesterday. And even if that's, to put it in simple terms, if you did 10 push-ups today and then tomorrow you go and do 11 push-ups, you're better tomorrow than you were today, and so on and so forth. And so we just keep reinforcing those pieces of what we value.
Yeah, that's something that's really nice too, is because as you're getting better as a team already, you're not having any guys that are graduating. That's one of the benefits that you guys have of being such a young team. You're basically keeping your whole core guys together. Going back, you were a high school coach at Joliet Catholic Academy before you came to Concordia. You were there for about 10 years. Prior to that, you had a lot of other assistant coaching jobs, Albany College, Quincy, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. When you were presented with the job with Concordia, was there ever a doubt in your mind that, like, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that's like, because it's a lot of work to try to rebuild a program when it's just starting up and say I'm trying to compete in an already competitive conference.
Sure. The positive point, and for a young man like yourself, the positive is that I was in a job, a stable job, a place that I like to work, and so it wasn't a move of need or desperation. And that's a good place to be in, and I hope that everybody gets to be in that place, early. Like when you start off trying to find a job, that might not be the case, but you know so yeah, it's a risk. It definitely was a risk. There's positives and negatives to everything. But I've always been one for taking on those fun challenges. I don't know why. It I think that I was already in the club community coaching wise at a top tier program. I was well known in the high school wise amongst my peer coaches. So part of it was I wasn't worried about connections in the recruiting process. I'd already been there, with the men's side of it, 10, 12 years previous, at the highest level. It was a different ballgame though. You know, when school decided to start a program, so let's do it this way. In 2017, I think there were only about 13 Division III programs in the Midwest. This year alone, there's now 37. So the field has just blossomed in many positive ways. The negative is that the number of junior athletes has not increased at all. So the pool of kids to recruit to is the same, but the pool of universities has gotten bigger. So that was a challenging piece, and I won't lie to you. We didn't get our first actual commitments until maybe late March, early April, and so yeah, there was many days where there was a lot of doubt there, and that's where the value of better today than yesterday had dawned on me, and I started using that. And that's about the time that things started to turn around in terms of building the team and putting the pieces into place. And then from there, things got better. Um, would I say everybody should go and build a brand new program from the ground up with the support of the university? Not for everybody, not for everybody. But you got to know your market, and you got to know, um, what's going on. Like, would I want to start one now? It would have to depend on the school. If you were at the right university with a poll, like a good academic, and like let's say University of Chicago or something, you might have a much easier time than if you were at a much smaller school in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of angst at times and a lot of frustration, a lot of no's for sure. A lot of kids saying no. You'd be surprised at how many young men did not want to take the risk of, going to a new program. So I give, come back around to the guys that are with us. I give them a ton of credit for jumping on board to something that risky.
Yeah, I can imagine, and especially as a coach when you get turned down, no, 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 and then you finally get your core guys that are actually stand by you, and you get them working together, and you're finally preaching your methods and you're teaching. That's could be really powerful, and you could already see the success you've already had this year. I guess the other question I have for you is why Concordia? Why was this opportunity better than any other? If another school came to you and said, "Would you restart a program for us?" Why is Concordia the school that worked for you?
My core values as a person. When I sat down and had conversations with Peach and Ann and Janet Wilbert and then Dr. Hines, um, the conversation was a different conversation than you might normally have. Like when I was applying for teaching jobs, it was very I'm trying to think of the right word here, procedural. You had to, the interview questions, and you talk about your, classroom philosophy and this and that and so forth. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But when I sat down with them, there were different types of conversations going on, um, as if they weren't worried about my X's and O's. They were far more worried about or concerned about who I was as a person and how I saw this program being built for them on campus as a culture. And that struck me as an important piece too, because it showed what they cared about for the campus. And I also come from a pretty, Christian Catholic type of background. And so it felt very comfortable to be at Concordia, especially spending time with them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's already been the perfect fit. It seems like you've already had a lot of success. And your past coaching experience, you mentioned this to me when we had prior conversations throughout the school year, but you've had a lot of really good mentors throughout the year. Ron Larson, who was a two-time assistant coach for the U.S. Olympic team, as well as Kelly Sheffield, who is currently the head coach of the women's volleyball program at the University of Wisconsin. So people like that have come into your life when you were an assistant coach. What has been some of the little tidbits of information or stuff from their playbook that's helped make you a better coach?
Here's what I'll tell you across the board with all of them. So, Coach Larson, and then my college coach, Arnie Ball, who's a Hall of Famer. And then, Niles Peterson, whose wife ran Mother Macaulay for decades upon decades. And then, of course, Sheffield, just sheer hard work, just hard workers and dedicated to what they're doing. And, and then they love their athletes. And so but each one of them had a unique personality to coaching that I kind of been blessed with. So I'll give you a brief example. Coach Larson was very tactical, very very attention to detail. So was Sheffield also, but Larson brought very much some Olympic level type of mentality to things. Coach Ball was very much the common sense, volleyball 101 he talked about all the time, which was, we do this because this is just smart, smart volleyball playing type of stuff. Keep it simple. So he also brought that KISS method of keep it simple, stupid, that sometimes you don't need to run all kinds of fancy plays and stuff. You just, hey, this works. Kind of remember the Titans where he has 6 plays and let's just run those 6 plays and so forth. And that was Coach Ball. Coach Niles Peterson, who I worked with at Quincy for 2 years and had known for a long time, brought very much the sports psychology to that angle. He had everything but his dissertation done for his doctorate in sports psychology. And I actually basically lived with him for 2 years at Quincy because we shared a house when he would be down there. And so we had a lot of conversations about that angle. And then Sheffield, just a ton of credit to that guy because he basically went into Albany when they were like the worst of the worst. And if I'm not mistaken, at one point they may have been Division III, but they were awful. And when he went in there, within a couple of years, he turned them into a winning program. And in the women's side, that's not easy. And then he turned them into a powerhouse on the East Coast before he left to go to Dayton, et cetera. And he is another example of just straight up hard work and dedication to what he's doing, and learning and learning and learning, and lots of reading of books and things like that. And he deserves very much to be where he's at right now with Wisconsin. So and that's just the major big name players that I've been influenced by. My very close friends at Joliet Catholic, Chris Scheibe, she's the head girls coach there, and she has multiple state titles and runner up. And I got to be with her for 2 state tournament final appearances. And you talk about someone that runs a program the right way. And so it's just it's been a blessing to be around a lot of the people that have played a part in influencing my coaching philosophy.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing that even you've had this much exposure to those kind of coaches, because those are the mentors that carry so much value over into someone else's life. And you can see how much the impact of having one person just to even listen to can have on someone's coaching style. Coach, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, catching up with you, and thanks for being a guest on the Cougar Playbook podcast.
Thanks, Carter. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right.
Later.
Everybody, see you later. Go Cougars.